Now it's real. We're recording, Sinjin.
Wow. Hello, world.
What you said, no.
Not my filter is engaged. Yeah. Where's the camera?
So see that like tall white
Oh, yeah.
owl?
It's an owl.
That's what it's called. An owl. Yeah.
That's fancy.
We haven't named it yet.
Which made a counter for how many people were bought. One.
Just remember it's one, no pressure. I went on a podcast this morning
Yeah.
with Kyle Evans.
Oh,
His
nice. Yeah, the
podcast-
grow one.
Yeah, and he was like, no pressure, but like, it could be anywhere from 1 person to 40,000, and I was like, oh.
How'd it go?
Okay, it went really well.
Awesome.
I mean, you know Kyle,
Yes, he makes it easy.
he's amazing, yeah,
Anybody want to attend 511 for citizens meeting before we get started?
Oh,
guarantee there's
Wow.
something you're gonna implement.
that's a lot of pressure.
Learning
all
from
of it.
the Sinjin,
That's-
the one and only. So a couple tidbits for today's class. One is Sinjin has just grown a tremendous amount since I first met you in 2018. So both as a human, a father, a husband, an investor. So he's grown in a lot of areas, and I just think there's a lot that we can learn from Sinjin. Also, I wanted to just show that joining a team is a path to success, not a step back. So sometimes there's like this negative connotation of like, well, if I join a team, it means that I failed on my own. And that's so far from the truth. You're plugging into a system that works, and it's just another path to consider when growing your career. So Sinjin was the first person that Michelle and I thought of, so we were thinking of continuing our series.
Well,
So,
thank you.
so welcome.
Thank you. And thank you all for coming. I was driving and I was like, I wonder if anyone will come. Well, you know, it's just like how I grew. Thanks for showing up. That's awesome. Yeah.
So we'll just go ahead and jump right into it. Why did you choose to get into real estate?
You know, it's kind of a long story, I guess, because I never really thought about real estate. Growing up, my parents were self-employed. My dad had a auto body shop. He did body work, and he'd started that when he was 18 years old and had grown that. And through that, he was able to invest in real estate. So from a young age, I was introduced to real estate and rentals, and we would always be working on properties, mowing lawns, paint, you know, all the things that come with property ownership.
Yeah.
So that's where I was first introduced. And I did that really all through high school. I always worked with the family business, and then I went to Penn State Altoona for a semester. Quickly realized that what I was introduced to at Penn State Altoona, I just had, you know, when you have that gut feeling when you know, like, this probably isn't the best. That happened pretty quickly. So I pulled the eject button there, pushed the eject button, and came back to Carlisle. Went to Hack. I worked at a restaurant, Cafe Bruges. I worked there for like 7 years, and I love the restaurant industry. It's like, I still love food, I love beer, and I love people. So that's like one of the things that has always been true, like in my life, is I've been very social, and I've loved connecting with people and, you know, providing an experience, because that's how I looked at it in the restaurant industry. But I just realized that the restaurant industry was great. We made good money. We were at a pretty happening spot in Carlisle, but then we were like right next to a couple bars. So I would go out with a pocket full of cash, and I would come home with less cash, because like when you get off work at 11 o'clock, you're like, let's go next door and hang out there till 1 or 2 or 3 or wherever the night took you. And I just knew that and I had a couple run-ins along the way that probably weren't the best in my life. I just knew that to lead the life I wanted to lead, it probably wasn't good to work till 11, get off and do things like that. So I knew I had to come up with an exit strategy. So all to say that, I sat down with my parents and I just was like, you know, talking about what I enjoy. I'd gone to school. I got my associate's degree from Hack, which was great, but I don't know if school was the path I took because everyone else was taking it. Looking back, I don't know if I would have gone to college at all, because high school, I didn't apply myself, but I did okay. I got honor roll, distinguished honor roll, and it came easy, but I think that was also a problem because I never applied myself. So looking back, there was probably missed opportunity there, but, you know, and speaking with my parents and just, you know, talking about the things I loved about the job and the things I didn't love about the job, my dad actually said, you might enjoy real estate, and having the background and working with him, I knew some of the technical aspects of it, just the mechanical, so I felt comfortable in that realm and I'd been around it. So yeah, as I was working at the restaurant, I got licensed online, and the day that I had gotten licensed, or like the day before, I went out with Anna, my wife, and her friend, and I got into an altercation. And ended up getting my name in the newspaper that day, the next day. And before that, I was planning on going to Hooke, which is where Dave's company is. Well, still is, that's where his team's at. But they were like the hometown brokerage, like, and my name was just in the hometown newspaper, and I was like, well, not going there anymore. So I ended up going to Berkshire Hathaway, which was great. A buddy of mine's mom had worked there. And I just was like, well, I'm gonna go here. I didn't know to interview. You know, when you're a new agent, I just had no idea. Yeah, I felt good because I had that commonality there. Nancy Allmeyer was her name. You may have done business with Nancy. So I held my license at Berkshire. So long-winded answer to say, I got into real estate because the restaurant industry, I just knew wasn't gonna allow me to live the life that I wanted. And I did juggle that job and real estate. I worked at the restaurant Monday nights, I managed Friday and Saturdays, and then I would sell real estate during the week. So that was a pretty heavy season of life, but it also just gave me the flexibility to make cash at times when business was slow, because most people didn't want to see houses Friday and Saturday night because they were going out to eat, and there I was to serve them. And Monday nights, that was an appointment in my calendar that I couldn't, go on appointments with. So I did that for 3 years, and then I was able to take the leap into real estate full time. So I would say it was just, looking at myself and what brought me joy, which was people, and what my skill sets were, being able to connect and just have conversations and be social. And I also just like sales. I sold beer and mussels and fries for 10 years, so it felt like a natural transition to go to houses, right? And I always knew that I wanted to invest. That was one thing, just growing up, I saw the freedom and flexibility it gave my parents. Having some real estate and rental properties, yeah, you have some headaches to go along with it. But it also, I could see that at a young age, it shaped my mindset that, hey, if you can accumulate some of these things over time, these assets, it can create a little bit of freedom for you as well. So that was also playing into the decision.
That's helpful for sure that you have that background.
Yeah,
So you have real estate could be an asset.
yeah, that was very helpful.
So,
At the time, I didn't think that, because like, I'd have to go mow these lawns.
right.
But it's amazing how these things along the line can shape the decisions that you make down the road.
For sure,
Yeah.
and your work ethic, I'm sure.
Totally. That was another thing, being raised by parents that were self-employed, it was, you have to go to work to provide anything.
Right.
So I definitely attribute, just work ethic and just kind of that drive and mindset to being around my parents all the time.
And one other thing I heard you say was in the beginning of your career, it was a bit of a grind.
Mhm.
You had to balance essentially two different careers.
Yeah.
To get your business, your real estate business off the ground.
Yeah, totally. And very grateful for that. My, one of my early managers at Cafe Bruges, which was a restaurant I worked at, he gave me this aha. He said, in the restaurant, he was one of the owners. He said, I'm in the restaurant, but as a waiter or waitress, this section is your own little business. And you can make it whatever you want. So it kind of flipped a switch in my mind too. It's like, and I think this might come into the team later as I think back, but I had this opportunity where I had 20 seats in a restaurant that I could do whatever I wanted with. And that was my first business, was like creating an environment that people enjoyed coming to,
Right.
which was cool.
They wanted to come back to.
Yeah, they want to hang out with me, and I was like, dang, this is crazy.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what brought you to the team? Like what led up to the decision to
Yeah.
say, you know what, I'm correct in saying you were an independent
Yeah.
agent at
Yeah.
Berkshire, and then you're like, I want to try this team thing.
Yeah, so I had been an independent agent at Berkshire, and I was doing okay. I mean, I wouldn't say I was lighting the world on fire, but having the supplemental income from the restaurant at the time and working in real estate, I think I started, I'm 34, I think I started at 25 or 26. It's an interesting time because not a ton of my friends are like, I want to buy a house,
Right.
right? So there was a lot of FISBO calls, it was a lot of it was a grind, putting yourself out there to get that business, so it's nice to have that supplemental income, but there started to become some momentum. And I wasn't looking to join the team, or quite frankly, really even make a move. I'd actually got engaged to Anna, and that night went over to a friend's house and was introduced to a great friend of mine now, Drew Richmond, who, we met over, yeah, we met.
Everybody's like,
Yeah,
I
Drew.
see a car.
Yeah, so I had known Jenica, for any of you that don't know Jenica, she works really closely with Dave. But at the time, whenever I joined the team, she was still very much involved in the day-to-day team operations, so there was that. Jen and I went to high school together, so we knew each other in a previous life too. But honestly, Drew and I sat down on the back porch one night, and Drew's very good at like asking about your business in a way that's like very comfortable. She cares. Like, I've known Drew now really well for 5 years. And she truly does care, but she's also very curious, like, about your life and what's going on and how's it been going for you. So we were just having that, and obviously I just got engaged, you know, I feel like my life is in front of me, about to marry someone. It was a lot.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah, there was like a lot of big conversations just happening. So she was just like, yeah, so how's business? Like, where do you see yourself going? And, you know, there are parts of real estate that I love, the people aspect of it, connecting with other agents and just clients, but there are parts that I just suck at. You know, the paperwork is not for me. Like crossing the Ts and dotting the Is and the dates and ordering inspections and dealing with the appraisal scheduling and, you know, just the paperwork part of it was not my cup of tea, and I'd done it because I was an independent agent. But I also knew that Dave had a really good reputation in the community, which I appreciated. And she had just said, you know, there's a lot of opportunity here. And I would hate not to ask you, and I was a very loyal person, it was hard for me to leave Berkshire Hathaway just because I had formed relationships there over the years, and I felt like I was abandoning them, which is, yeah, it was
I
just
get that.
it was a hard thing. But a conversation with my mom, she was like, sorry, there's just big points in life that if you look back and say, wow, that was hard. My mom just said, hey, if they care about you, they'll support you. And that's all I need to hear to say, yeah, you're right, like, I'm gonna make this decision for myself. So I was able to then go to them and just say, hey, thank you for everything, I'm gonna take this opportunity. And Drew, she had said at the time, she's like, you know, how will it feel a year from now if someone is in that spot? So I talked to Anna a lot about it, and obviously my family, and here I am, you know, joined the team, which was, as I look back, pretty big defining moment in my life. I'm
For
sorry,
sure, no.
it's just, a lot can happen in 5 years, you know?
Lots.
Mhm.
And you provide for your family.
Yeah, I mean, it's just created a ton of opportunity that who knows if it would have been there or not. And my dad being self-employed, you know, he's like, well, don't you want to have like your name on the sign? I'm like, no, I don't really care about that. So it's just, you know, it was like a 45-second conversation with my mom to like give me clarity around just like a mindset block that I have that like really has opened up so much opportunity in my life.
Has shaped
Yeah,
your life.
it's literally changed my life, like. It's unreal,
I love
yeah,
that.
it's unreal.
Wasn't
I
that
wanna-
Gary Keller that said you could be anywhere you want in 5 years?
Right,
Mhm.
anywhere you want.
And I'm telling you, that resonates with me so often because I even think some of the stupid stuff I was doing when I was, you know, that we've all done, you know, in our lives. I mean, there are probably cases like if something would have just gone the other way, I could be in jail or worse, you know, so it's like, yeah, it is amazing how these like little blips in your, thank you, Taylor, these little blips in your life, I don't think I'm gonna emotional again, that was just sad. Yeah, it is so true, like, I think we overestimate, everyone says you overestimate what you can do in a year, and you underestimate what you can do in 5. And, that's just been really helpful to like not rush things. But just like have a plan and a filter that you run your decisions through and stick to them. So, yeah, but these last 5 going on 6 years in August have certainly been just life changing. Yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I want to take a step back for 2 things. One was, you know, the clarity around your decision. Like that clarity is what allowed you to make a decision and have peace with it. And like, this is a path I'm gonna choose.
Mhm.
And then the second part I want to point out is you mentioned, it didn't matter to you if the name's on the sign.
Yeah.
Like, your name on the sign isn't what defines the success. It's what you do with your business that can help you be successful or not. And I think that for a lot of people, that can be a hard mindset to overcome.
And I think it's great if you're able to build something where that's what you have,
Exactly.
but I just knew with my skill set. Not saying that maybe down the road that couldn't happen, but I also knew where I was at that time and what I truly enjoyed doing. Dave had already built it. Like, there are so many things that just some of the back end things that he has like come up with in his own mind. I don't have the bandwidth or really the care to do. Just being honest with myself, I know where, like, what I value and what I want to do, and it was already built for me, so I think it's great that he has his name on a sign, and for anyone else that's able to do that, it's fantastic. I just knew for myself what I wanted to achieve, I could do by, for lack of a better, just visual hitch to his horse. And empower myself through the processes and systems that he has.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And having clarity around what your strengths were and what your
Yes.
weaknesses were.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
So talk to us a little bit. So you joined the team,
Mhm.
like, where has it taken you? You talked about opportunity. Talk to us about what that opportunity.
Yeah, so, I mean, the first interaction I ever had with, I mean, I knew Dave from the community, but when I was an independent agent, the first property that, it was the first transaction I did was my best friend Derek. The second transaction I did was my own, because I was like, well, we gotta get business somehow, so let's buy something. But I had always had a dream to buy a multi-family house, live in one and rent the other out, because I didn't want to spend money to live, and I've always wanted to invest in. At that time, you could get an FHA loan, 3.5% down, you can get seller's assistance.
Right.
So it was like,
You're
yeah,
like, this
I'm
is a
gonna do that.
no-brainer.
Yeah, I'm gonna spend $600 and own a house, and then it's gonna pay for itself. So that's kind of a time gone right now. But funny enough, the agent on the other side was Dave.
Okay.
Yeah, which was really cool, because I remember I sent out the offer and, I was a new agent. I didn't know about tenant occupied property addendums and like, did you look at the leases? I was like, oh, this is a house, and I hope they give me seller's assist. Dave had responded back to me with like, a email that was like a book. And at that time, I was like, dang, this guy doesn't really know me. He just took the time to like lay all this out. I'm like, I appreciate that. It left a lasting impression, because he took the time to like pour into me when he didn't need to. He could have just said, yeah, your offer is bad. He probably did, right?
Like, who?
Yeah. Looking over your shoulder when you're doing this, the implications of the contract, right? I'm like, oh, I'm trying to figure it out. So that was like my real first encounter with Dave professionally, and it just, I think that lesson and that too was every interaction that we have with agents can like be so powerful.
Mhm.
So that's just like a huge reminder for me, and as I grew in the business on Dave's team, like I had the opportunity, and I feel very blessed to have a lot of like interaction with a ton of agents in our area. And even in times when things are really busy or you have multiple offers, you're so tempted to like shoot a text or send an email. I always make it a point to just like say thank you, and I feel like that's gone a long way just in business, because people remember that. Like, there's 2,200 of us in this central Pennsylvania area, roughly, give or take. I'm sure you know the numbers.
I think we're down to 2,000, but close.
They're dropping off, okay.
Yeah.
But it's amazing, like, how just one interaction can seriously shape someone's perception of you forever. So that interaction in of itself, like, was very impressive to me. So that's the first time I ever met Dave. And can you just refresh me on the question? But I thought that was important to say, like, that's how it.
No, that's huge.
Yeah.
I just to continue that thought for a second, it's why you should always remain calm and professional in situations, even if they're not going necessarily the way that you want them to. Because you don't know if that interaction you have with that human, that agent on the other side could affect opportunities for you later. Like, this is so much a relationship business
It's the biggest thing.
in more ways than one.
Yeah,
And though having professional interactions with your peers, no matter what brokerage they're with, can shape your whole entire career, and you don't even realize it in that moment.
and sometimes it can be the tipping points of your offer for your clients being accepted or not accepted.
Mhm.
That rapport that you build, that relationship that you have, it's amazing, like just, we all talk about like, what are the terms of the offer that are like tangible, it's like the intangibles that almost carry more weight sometimes. So, yeah, just like trying to remember that because real estate is stressful, it can be very stressful. Drew always reminds us like, we're not delivering beating hearts. Like, but in this market, it can feel like it's a beating heart because everything is just so now, Mia, what's the best you can do like all the time? So just, yeah, that was a very impressionable moment. Like early on in my career, it was like, wow, this guy, it's more than real estate. You could tell, like he came from contribution. He understood that this was for me and like there was a bigger thing involved than just a sale. So yeah, it was a really cool experience early.
I love that. So you have that interaction.
Yeah.
How have you grown up through the team?
So I started on the team as a buyer's agent. I came on as a buyer's agent, August 20th will be my 6th year on the team, so I came on as a buyer's agent, and at the time, Laney was there, you had been there. It was a lot smaller than it is now, there weren't as many, operations components. But it came on, Dave was there still lead genning with us every morning and came on as a buyer's agent, and, through that, it was great because I still got to, the way that I looked at the team was, team generated business in any model usually is not gonna be, and this might be too weeded, but is not paid typically the same as business that you bring in on your own, just because the numbers don't make sense. But the way I looked at that was, well, yeah, I'm gonna have something where I would have nothing, right? So
Right.
to me, it was opportunity to sharpen my axe because I'd have the opportunity to meet with more people. Dave in our market center, just he's a third generation real estate agent, so I'm a Carlisle guy through and through, born and raised there, and community is really big to me. So there was that was going. Plus, I just, as I looked at it, Laney actually had been at Berkshire Hathaway before she went to the Dayville team, so I knew Laney over there, and then I saw Laney over there, who's just an agent that has since moved away, but that we know mutually, but just someone that I've respected. She got into real estate around the same time I did, and I got to see her grow through joining the team, so kind of that social proofing. But yeah, so I did buyer's agent for a couple of years, and then Drew, as I had joined, she was the lead listing agent, and I'd always admired Drew because of the way she carried herself in her business. She was a go-getter, and another thing that drew me to the team was they were doing the things that I wanted to do. Right, like I knew, like they were motivated and goal driven just like I was, and I felt like surrounding myself with the people that I wanted to be like would allow me to get there quicker because we would have this shared synergy of goals and mindset and drive, and that was a huge motivator for me to get there too, and I wanted to learn that.
Well, and they say you are like the 5 people that you surround yourself with.
Yes,
And so to be constantly around that team and their energy and their growth mindset, which is why we're always like, come to Education Tuesday, because although watching digitally is helpful, being in the room is a
Oh, there's stuff that
totally other
happens.
level of
oh
experience.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally,
and you got that every day being on the team.
still get it every day.
Yeah,
Yeah, still get it every day. And I mean, part of that process too, like getting out of the restaurant industry, and I'm sure everyone here has experienced it, you've shed people, that just don't serve you at that season of life. I still love those people for where they were in my life, but you have to sacrifice.
you outgrow.
Yeah,
You
exactly,
outgrow.
exactly. So that was a huge part of that as well. And so I started out as a buyer's agent and then Drew. One thing that has always been really important to me is like, what's next, what's next, what's next? And the team has outlined like a career path that is, you can see it and you can feel it and you can achieve it. And that's allowed me to go from, buyer's agent, then I went into listing agent, and now I've taken the role of sales director, which has been rewarding for me in terms of what my life goals are, because I've seen what that path is and I can achieve it.
Mhm.
And then the other thing I would say that's just been really helpful, I think we all follow it. I don't know if everyone does now, but Dave is huge on EOS. And like putting together a personal VTO, like what my 1 year, quarter, 5 year, 10-year goals are. That has just been instrumental in, like I had said earlier, like funneling every decision that Anna and I make in our personal lives through that to make sure that we don't veer off the course of where we see our future going. And that's just been. We were gonna open a coffee shop this year. And we bought a laundromat last year, which I still think, why did we buy that laundromat? It's like, I shouldn't have a laundromat, but we bought it with the sense of, we liked the location in Carlisle, and we had the dream together, but Anna was really all about it. I want to open this coffee shop. And we went through planning, we had drawings taken up, and because of the team and the VTO, we were about to pull the trigger, and there was definitely stress between us. We have 4 little kids. Anna has a wedding floral business that she does really great at, so weekends and ends of the week, she's pulled in one direction. I'm still, doing my best to keep up with her and, just keep up with what real estate is. And we just like, we went back to our VTO, and on our VTO, up until that point, we had never had coffee shop. It was always investment properties because they're more passive and not active. Well, the first mistake, if I'm looking back, was, we bought a laundromat, which is like, you have to actively manage the laundromat. Like, you gotta open it, you gotta close it, you gotta clean it, like, all the things. So that was kind of a mistake that we made early. It was like, we didn't go back to the VTO that the team has helped me flesh out. And then when it came to the coffee shop, we just said, what's important to us? Obviously, our family and our free time. Well, if we're gonna inject X amount of capital into redoing this and creating a business, we're probably gonna wanna be there. So one of the huge things that the team has done for me is just allowed me to find clarity through systems and tools that they use that I probably wouldn't have discovered on my own. So I just owe a lot to that. I've been able to flesh out what the next 1, 3, 5, 10 years of my life ideally would look like and have that North Star. Because, businesses worth building and lives worth living. And I truly feel like on the team, it's empowered me to look at it as a vehicle to get me to where I want to be. Like, I'm not gonna be a realtor past 50. I'm just putting it out there. I'm not being a realtor past 50. Like, my business card is gonna have an end date on it, and I still might help friends and family, but I'm really using the team and everything that's come from it, the leverage that's provided and the leadership that's there to allow me to fulfill my ideal life. And if I still sell 10 to 12 houses that's okay. But right now, it's given me a vehicle to get where I want to go because it's been fleshed out and I have support around me, Drew, Dave, the whole team. Even the brokerage, I come here to these meetings and everyone, I feel like that's one thing that's great about Keller Williams is the culture that's here that we work so hard to protect. It's just that, everyone here is like-minded and we all have a common goal of building great lives through business. So the team has provided that to me. And in turn, it's overflowed into my whole world, which is awesome.
And so a couple things I want to clarify. EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating Systems. So that comes from the book Traction. If you're working on growing a team, that is definitely something that I can help you implement. A key component with EOS is also the EOS life. So it's not just for business, but how can you apply those systems to your personal life so you can have the intentionality that Sinjin and his wife had and the ability to say no to what sounded like a cool opportunity, but then when they came back to their VTO, which is Vision Traction Organizer, that lays out their 5-year, their 3-year, and then their 1-year plan to allow you to then break that 1-year plan into quarterly rocks. So if you've ever heard of the 12-week year, kind of the same thing. You just take 1 quarter at a time to get you to the 1-year goal. And the 1-year goal should line you up with the 2 or 3-year goal. And the 3-year goal should line you up with the 5-year plan. You can have that system for your business, but you can very much have it for your life. Another thing I want to point out there is for those who are building a team in this room, the value that you can provide to your agents isn't just coaching them in their business, but it's coaching them in their personal life, which I can definitely, even for me being on the team, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for Drew and Dave, helping me figure out what my North Star was, and helping you build your investment portfolio and just all right, we're gonna help you build this business, but how can we then help you build wealth with the money that you're making? And that's what will keep your team members on your team, because it's not just about the transactions and the leads. It's about life.
Yeah, and that's how I truly feel, they're invested in me.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the business is just a byproduct, I feel because the business, I love people, that's why I got into this in the first place, and we are about enriching our clients and our communities and the team members' lives on the team. But to me, it's like every time I pick up that phone prospect, I'm like, my 10-year goal is just like right here. You know, so picking up that phone is easy, because my job is just, now it's different as a sales director, you know, to pour into agents, but it's still to lead generate at a high level. And that's just really easy to do when you have clarity around why you're doing it. And the team has just provided me, I wasn't that accountable. I would have a settlement at Berkshire and then I'd be playing golf for the next 2 days. Because, you know, settlement checks are nice and I could afford a couple tea times there. But then I found the business was like, wait, you know, it had its big peaks and valleys because you would work really hard to get it to the closing table and then I would take a week off. Or I'd go play basketball in the afternoon, or I didn't have the accountability around me and the tracking to say, hey, this is why you're not feeling the business now, or this is what you're doing and keep doing it this way. So that's just another thing that as I looked at my business and the things I liked and I didn't like, I knew that I always have like said, I'm like a bird dog. They just point me in the direction and tell me, and I will do that. But if a bird dog doesn't have the right handler, they're just a dog, you know, so. Not to make myself out to be just an animal, but I've always just, yeah, I'm just a dog. I've always just felt though, like having someone be able to show you that's done it in the past and be surrounded by people that have done it before you the right way. It's just really helpful then to say, hey, these are the activities that you need to do at a high level. And if you do A, B, C, and D, you'll get to E. And that's just been, yeah, life changing.
Yeah, and the team is like a built-in coaching program,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, built-in coaching for your business, built-in coaching for your life,
Yeah.
your investments, like
Yeah.
all the things.
Cause it's like, it's worked backwards, you know, with anything like in our goal setting, it's like, well, what do you want this to look like here? What do you have to do in the next 5? What do you have to do in the 3? What do you have to do in the 1? And then once you get clarity around 1 year and what you're gonna do there, you're able to break it down into quarters, into months, into weeks, into days. And then once you have like, oh, I just have to talk to 20 people today about real estate, I have to do that for 5 days, that should get me here. And I never tracked anything. You know, the team, and I hope everyone tracks like the amount of phone calls they make about real estate, because the beautiful thing about that, I mean, Gary is so big on collecting data. And everyone is mining data. I mean, that's like the gold rush of this age. But if you can at the end of the year say, you know what, I made 10,000 phone calls. And of those 10,000 phone calls, I had 2,000 real estate conversations. And of those 2,000 real estate conversations, I was able to set 200 appointments. And of those 200 appointments, I was able to sign 150. And of 150 people I signed, I sold 70. Or whatever your numbers are, then the next year, you're able to systematically set your goals and time block it in a way that's based on that. Which that has been powerful to me, because now it's not like, oh, I wonder if I can do this. It's generally, oh, if I do this and I have the same success rate, yeah, I'll be there.
Mhm.
And that's just, it's not if, it's just when at that point for me. And that, like, I'm a very optimistic person, but I'm also realistic as well. So whenever I'm able to put the data to it, and then you can also look back and say, wait, what was last year like in June? Like right now, we're struggling. I don't know if anyone else is, but we're struggling with listing appointments. Our first thought is, well, this is what happens every June. Well, we look back last year, it didn't happen then. So what changed?
That
You know?
excuse, it does not work right now.
No, it doesn't. So, I mean, yeah, I've always, like, my favorite part of the job is talking to people and meeting with people and understanding their goals. It's just been nice to have a lot of the other stuff taken off of my plate.
I love that. And then I think another key component, at least, you know, Taylor and I talked about this with her program as well. When we know the numbers, we know what trainings everybody needs. So for example, we're having the exactly what to say training on Tuesday. That was around a couple areas of focus, which one was conversion. Agents were vocally telling us like, hey, we're struggling, like we're meeting with people, but I can't get them to list their house, or I can't get them to pull the trigger to buy because of the interest rates, or this NAR settlement, you know, I don't know how to talk to people about that. That's where we draw our education calendar from. And I remember the team was able to do the same thing of, hey, the team is struggling with converting sign calls. So then all of the trainings for a month were around increasing conversion around there. So tracking your numbers lets you know when you look at the Education Tuesdays and you're like, wow, there's 20 classes. I don't have time for all 20 of them.
it gives you a North Star on which ones apply to you because of what you need.
Yeah, and Drew says all the time in our meetings, the worst thing to say in business as an individual or a team owner or person on a team is, I feel like. Cause I feel like isn't based in data, it's based in emotion, and if you just make decisions on emotion, I think we've all probably made emotional decisions.
Yep.
I have a lot of them, and they're usually not good ones, you just typically don't do what's best.
And the laundromat.
Yeah, exactly, I love this place, it's still gonna work out, I think, we'll see, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't, that might just turn into like one bedroom efficiencies eventually. The people that go there are gonna be upset, but I'll be happy. So that's down the road. Yeah, but no, exactly. That was an emotional decision based on, man, I have this weird attraction to buildings. I don't know why, but it had a nice parking lot and it was a corner brick building. I was like, I love you. And then I'm like, why did I make that choice? You know? Yeah, so but all that to say, yeah, just being one, I think no matter where you're at, I think if you recognize what your skill set is. And if you cover all the bases, that's great. One of the focuses of our team is specialization, right? It's not trying to do everything good, but just like do a couple things really great. And then rely on the other members of the team to give an overall really strong client experience. And that's just allowed me to, in my business, dig my well really deep and get really sharp on the skills that I need to have to serve clients at a deep level, which is, handling objections, because we all get the same objections, interest rates. I have to sell before I buy, there's 5 objections that we get in real estate, and then once you understand how to do that part of the job at a high level, everything else comes easier, because then you're just in a relationship and building trust and understanding motivation, and then the other stuff doesn't even matter, and I think that's what's been so helpful about the team is just such a high level of training around the things that matter in a conversation to me are really around motivation, why are you doing this in the first place? And then just finding that common ground and build trust on. And then just following up and following through. So just the tools that are provided, yeah, it's offered a lot. Yeah.
What question didn't I ask you that I should have asked you?
You asked me this and I'm really, because I thought your questions were really great, and I also thought your questions allowed expansion. I got in. You asked about, I was trying to think, because you had asked something about how do you get through the highs
Oh, yeah,
and
the
through
peaks
the
and
lows.
valleys.
Yeah, and it's been very strange. I've only been in real estate 8 years, so I can't go back a lot of cycles. I feel like when I got in, it was more of a buyer's market. Thus being able to buy an investment property in Carlisle with seller's assistance and FHA financing, because now you can't touch that. To now where it's been, I feel like ever since I joined the team, might have been a little equal, but it's been a pretty heavy seller's market, and by the grace of God, or whoever's looking out for me, I've kind of gone through that trajectory. I've kind of hit the stride of I got into the listing role as the listing market was changing.
Okay,
So I don't know if I was living right or what was happening, but I got to ride that wave a little bit. I think the thing that's always though gotten me through it, which I think is what, and I'm not saying it's oh, great, Sinjin. I just think if you have the grit, it's not, I don't think it's rocket science. I just think it's being gritty.
you gotta do
Like-
your work.
Picking up the phone when you don't want to, talking to people that you tell yourself, they don't want to hear from you today. And I've had to do that even in this past week 3 times. And then you're amazed that when you make those calls, what happens a week later? I called a past client, he sold out in Big Spring, he moved to North Carolina or South Carolina, he's living outside Myrtle Beach. I was like, hey, what's up, Al? How are you doing? I was like, I don't need to call this guy, he just moved down there 2 years ago, he wants to fish. Wouldn't you know, yesterday, his son called me, out of nowhere. I'm like, this is why you call the people, so I would just say, to that point, sometimes the same activities don't work. So you either have to up the activities or change the activities. But the thing that separates, I feel like most people in this business and why a small percentage does the majority is because they just do the same stuff consistently over and over again. And they make it a point to, and not be afraid to ask for business. you know? Or say, hey, we're gonna go over paperwork at this first meeting, and we're gonna talk about signing it and activating the next steps. I remember when I first got into the business, I was like, I'm not talking about buyer's agency, they'll sign when they fill out a contract, and I did that for a long time. And then I was like, why am I doing that? And I think when I took over the listing on the team, you don't put a sign in the yard until you sign paperwork. And I would never not sign paperwork, so. I think it's continuing to, you know, the things that have gotten me through, continue to understand the value that you provide. I feel like being able to connect with people at a real deep level and be unattached to the outcome, which is really hard if you're struggling for business. Like when I first joined the team, Drew told me I had commission breath, which is like when you're going really hard for a sale, like you're just trying to sell someone on something. She would say you have commission breath, and that's hard to get through that point if business is tight, because yeah, my life depends on it.
Right,
I'm gonna be like hard selling somebody. But I think if you're able to get to a point where you do the daily prospecting at a high enough level and you build a pipeline of nurtures and follow-ups. You then are able just to be yourself and just say, hey, how can I help you today? Or who can I help? And whenever you're able just to slow your tone down and talk to them, whoever you're talking to, just with a different tonality, it truly opens up so many more doors. Rather than, hey, are you buying this week? Or are you gonna buy this month? It's just a different conversation. So I would say it's just, yeah, the grittiness is really like, I just am really clearly focused on what I want. And through that, I will just work like a dog to get
well,
there.
and it's because you have clarity,
Yeah,
you have purpose.
yeah.
That's giving you peace on what you need to do and who you need to be to make it happen, and then you show up.
Yeah, and I'm competitive, like, if someone else is in that room, and that's the thing too that I think is super valuable, like. I'm sure whenever you're doing prospecting in a group setting, I don't know about it, I love when there's other people in the room because it gives me energy. Like, I love hearing someone have a good conversation, or I actually really love when they get an objection that they have to handle and I don't. Cause then I can learn and not do the same thing wrong, so just. I love that aspect of it too, you know, we meet every morning at 8:30, we have a positive focus and we have a training on what's going on in the market. And then 9 to 10:45, we prospect Monday through Thursday, and we do it as a group, and then we, at the end of the prospecting, we'll celebrate our conversations. The appointments, and we'll talk about anything that was a struggle, so. Yeah, I think it's just, yeah, with clarity comes like your ability to focus, and. I always talk about what Drew says, but she is a very influential person in my life, and I feel like the mantra for my years been diluted focus gives you diluted results. So, you know, I think in line with the coffee shop conversation, it's just interesting how in your life you can point at certain things. And whenever we axed that plan, it was like 1,000-pound weight had been lifted off of our shoulders, and now we're just like, Anna, you dig into your wedding business, I'm gonna dig into real estate, and everything else will just get funneled through our plan. And she's been like, it gets you fired up. I get so excited.
And the legacy that you're gonna.
Yeah, I want them to do whatever. I remember we went to see, who was the older gentleman that we went to 2 years ago down in Middletown? It was Quantum Leap.
Gene Rivers.
Yeah, we went to see Gene Rivers, and I don't know if this is gonna be me, but he was like, you wanna know how you can hang out with your family all the time? He's like, buy a house in the mountains, buy a house on the beach, and buy a lake house. Your family will always be with you. And I don't wanna own properties all over like that, but to me, like, family is so important. I wanna keep them, I want them to do what they want. And he said through his career, he was able to let his kids explore their true passions.
Right,
Like, this one is a doctor in art or art, like works at some museum, and like, that's the stuff that gets me fired up. You know, that through his hard work, he was able to provide a life where his kids could explore what made them happy. So, yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
I love that. Any questions for Sinjin? I know he told a lot of good nuggets there, but I would love it if you asked him questions or even shared like what struck you today? Like, what's the thing that you're gonna walk away with today that helps you be Jen tomorrow at a higher level?
My probably sweating up here. Did anyone notice that?
So
Well, thank you for coming.
I heard clarity a ton, and the one that stuck out to me is just, you know, clarity, being clear on your strengths and your weaknesses, and I think that that's extremely important, knowing what you're good at and then knowing what you need help.
Yeah,
Right?
and not being afraid to ask for help.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I love that.
I liked what you said about not being attached to the outcome. Fall in love with the process, not the outcome.
yeah.
I love that too.
I feel like that makes everything easier. you know,
Well, it'll come,
yeah, exactly,
as long as you do what you're supposed to do.
yeah.
Yeah, doing the right thing, win-win, it always comes back around.
Mhm. Well, thank y'all for coming.
Thank you. so
Thanks for
much.
having me. Yeah.
I knew you'd be awesome.
Well, I don't know, I was actually, and I'm only a phone call away if anyone ever wants to bounce anything off. I will like your stories way too much probably, but, yeah, I'm an open book. I think knowledge is power, and I think when we can come together as a group and like use that synergy and that just shared thought process, I love that stuff. So nothing is off the table for me.
And the team is so open with shadowing, so like,
Oh,
if you
yeah.
wanna see lead gen, the way lead gen should be done, like, they will let you come lead gen with them for a morning, so you can redevelop that energy with your own team, or just your, PC team, and then your fellow agents, and you can recreate that energy, but to see it live in action is
We
like. a
hope
whole
it's
nother
great,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. I
Have a
love it.
wonderful afternoon, y'all.
Thank
Thank
you.